When we think about the blueprints of life, our minds usually jump to DNA, right? But what about the actual machines that the DNA code builds? We're about to dive into a breakthrough that lets us see the very architecture of life itself. Just a few simple words, but they accompanied a Nobel Prize. They might not sound like a big deal, but they represent the solution to a puzzle that stumped scientists for 50 years. This was the moment biology changed, forever. Okay, so what does protein structure prediction even mean? And really, why is everyone calling this one of the biggest breakthroughs in 100 years? Let's break it all down. All right, to really get this, we first have to talk about the stars of the show, proteins. These are the tiny, unsung heroes working away inside every single one of your cells right now. Yeah, think of proteins as these little microscopic machines. I mean, they're the construction workers, the delivery drivers, the soldiers, even the communications network of your entire body. They're digesting your food, powering your muscles, fighting off viruses. Seriously, almost everything that happens in your body happens because a protein is doing its job. So, how does a protein get made? Well, it starts out as just a simple string of things called amino acids. That's the blueprint. But here's the thing. That string, on its own, is totally useless. To actually do anything, it has to spontaneously fold itself into this unique, unbelievably complex 3D shape. And that shape, that's the machine. The best way to picture it is like biological origami. The string of amino acids, that's your flat piece of paper. But the final folded crane or frog, that is the working protein. And this is the critical part. Its shape defines its job. If it folds wrong, even a tiny bit, the machine breaks. And that's where you get diseases like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. And that brings us to one of the absolute grand challenges of modern science. See, for decades, we could read the blueprint, the amino acid sequence, no problem. But we had no idea what the final shape would be. It was like we were holding the sheet music, but couldn't even begin to imagine what the symphony would sound like. This was officially called the protein folding problem, and it was a beast. Scientists could easily figure out the sequence of amino acids in the chain, but predicting how that chain would twist and coil into its final working shape, that was a monumental challenge that stumped generations of the world's smartest people for 50 long years. So why was it so ridiculously hard? Well, for just a typical protein, the number of ways it could theoretically fold is, well, it's a 1 followed by 300 zeros. Let me try to put that into perspective for you. That number is bigger, way, way bigger than the number of atoms in the entire known universe. It's just mind-boggling. So trying to guess the right shape was impossible. Even with the world's fastest supercomputers, it would take longer than the age of the universe. Brute force was never going to work. It wasn't just difficult, it was cosmically impossible. So for 50 years, this problem just looked completely unbeatable. And then something totally new entered the scene, a new way of thinking, powered by a new kind of tool. And that's where Damas Hassabis, John Dumper, and their team come in. They looked at this massive biological problem and came at it with a totally revolutionary idea. They thought, what if we could use artificial intelligence to finally solve this thing? And the impact of their idea is it's staggering. I mean, look at the old way of figuring out a protein structure. It took years, sometimes decades, of painful lab work costing millions for just one protein. The new AI way, it can predict a structure with atomic-level accuracy in minutes. The jump forward here, it's almost hard to wrap your head around. So yeah, they cracked it. And it was this perfect storm, really. You had all these huge public databases of protein structures that scientists had built up over the years, combined with these incredible leaps in computing power. They trained their AI on all that data, and it learned the patterns. They essentially taught a computer the fundamental rules of biological origami. And just like that, the 50-year-old code was broken. Okay, so a huge scientific puzzle is solved. That's awesome for scientists, but what does it actually mean for the rest of us? Why does this matter so much? Well, this is where the story gets really incredible. Think about it like this. A lot of diseases are caused by a protein that's gone rogue, and that protein's unique 3D shape creates a very specific keyhole. If you want to make a drug to stop it, you need to design a key that fits that hole perfectly. Before this breakthrough, we were basically designing keys with a blindfold on. Now, for the first time, we can see the keyhole in perfect atomic detail. And this just unlocks a completely new way of doing medicine. We can now identify a protein that's causing, say, cancer or Alzheimer's, predict its exact 3D structure almost instantly, and then use computers to design a custom drug that fits it like a lock and key to switch it off. This just opens the door to creating medicines that are way more effective, have fewer side effects, and can be developed in a fraction of the time. So that whole process of drug discovery and design, which used to take more than a decade, can now be radically sped up. We're talking about a massive acceleration in our ability to fight disease and find new cures. So look, this discovery isn't just another step forward. This is a fundamental shift in how we understand and even engineer the biological world around us. So what's next? What this really means is that biology is changing. It's moving from a science of just observing what's there to a science of design. For the very first time, we can start to engineer biology from the ground up, with the same kind of precision we use to build bridges or microchips. And the applications, they go way beyond just medicine. Think about designing new enzymes that can literally eat plastic waste and help clean up our oceans. Or we could engineer proteins to make our crops more resilient to drought and pests, helping to feed a growing world. The potential it's almost endless. We've basically been handed a universal toolkit for biology. And that leaves us with a really powerful question. Humanity has just been handed a kind of master key to the living world. Now that we can actually read and understand the intricate architecture of life itself, what are we going to choose to build?